I used 2 of my remaining free spell slots using Healing Word to make the kids not die. They run off, and I use my last spell slot to suggest that the rogue not murder any more kids. Corgo runs off a bit while we go to get a room. I change out of gnome form, and that face now has a criminal record. Hey everybody, SkyDieRay here, and you're now rainbow colored for some reason. Welcome to another DnDGreentext video. How are you guys doing? Hope you're having a wonderful day today. Before jumping into the video, I want to quickly kindly ask you if you want to take a moment to smash the like video and also subscribe if you haven't already. Only takes a second, helps out, and I appreciate it, so thank you for that. And yeah, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Accidental soul consumption. A story from one of the earlier sessions of the campaign that I'm currently in. Be me, half-elf bard. Be not me. DM, gnome artificer, halfling wizard, drow rogue, dragonborn barbarian, and wood elf druid. Be traversing the sewers under the king's castle after some of our team fell down through a pit tarp in one of the secret areas. Come across a hunched over man carrying several cages containing rats. Peak related. Jesus Christ, okay. A mini boss probably? A mini boss fight ensues after our attempt to speak with him fails. The lad was able to control massive amounts of rats that proceed to bite us. We also had to walk through 3-foot tall sewage, halving our movement as he was able to walk on top of it for some reason. We end up knocking him out after a few rounds of panicked sword swinging, and it was an overall fun mini-boss, props to our DM. Our rogue flings him over his shoulder to interrogate later. I pick up a rat from the cages that the man dropped and name him Archibald. We all move on. We proceeded to walk through the sewers as we looked for a way back up to the surface. We eventually get to a massive gate with some faint lights shining behind it, along with a regular door about 20 feet away from it. I decide to see if I can make a hole in the gate while the rest of the group looks in the other room. Yes, I know splitting the party is stupid now. I was new. The other 4 enter the room to see a second rat lad sleeping on a bunk bed. And as if on cue, the original rat lad wakes up on the rogue's shoulder and starts screaming bloody murder. The rogue, startled by this turn of events, proceeds to slam the weakened mini-boss into the stone wall, killing him instantly. The second guy is still getting his bearings, so the rest of the party gets an opportunity to try and hide. Everyone chooses fairly decent hiding spots excepting the wizard. The mad lad thought the best hiding spot for a halfling would be directly under the newly made corpse that just fell to the ground. Everyone, including the wizard, rolls high enough that rat lad number 2 only sees the corpse of his friend. He runs directly to the corpse, kneels down, and starts ripping a few rats' heads off, and proceeds to pour the blood into his mouth. The DM asks the wizard's player if he'd like to do anything while this is happening. We were expecting him to use this as an opportunity for a sneak attack, or to simply try and stay as still as possible while the situation goes down. Instead, he asks if he can stealthily drink the rat blood intended for the corpse. DM has to stop and think for a second. Says that he can try. Wizard rolls high. Wizard is now stealthily drinking rat blood. Suddenly, the wizard starts hearing loud screaming from inside his head. Rat lad number 2 finally notices what's happening and all hell starts to break loose. My character finally hears what's going on after a successful perception check, and I start running into the room. I roll persuasion to see if we can negotiate with this guy, since there has yet to be any actual fighting. Roll high because I'm a bard and expertise is busted. Surprisingly, the rat lad starts to stand down. Everyone starts to put away their weapons and try to figure out what just happened. It turns out that our wizard consumed the components necessary to revive rat lad number 1, and this resulted in him also consuming the guy's soul, consciousness and all. Rat lad number 2 informs us that the 2 of them were employed by the king to skulk in the sewers to keep intruders away. He also informs us that his name is Jerry. Jerry, now devoid of his best friend, decides to come with us on the rest of the adventure in the sewers. Before we leave the room and end the session, the DM informs the wizard that he now has a voice in his head and immunity to poison. Neat! Worth it. I mean, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure the guy didn't want to live anymore. Didn't need the soul any longer, yeah. Monks are still the best wizards. And this was another story that I read with monks being the best wizards a while ago, I think. Oh yeah, it was with a guy that introduced his character without saying, his class, and he was actually a monk that pretended to be a wizard pretty much. Next campaign with the same crew plus 1 more. New addition is GF of Party's Barbarian, which decides to go wizard. Bimmy, still playing monk pretending to be a wise old wizard, think Uncle Iroh from Avatar. Had a new traveling kettle custom made since last campaign. This one's a nice shiny mithril kettle. Bought a wand of long arm and a ring of dispelling ki blasts. Spend 1 or 3 ki and cast dispel magic or greater dispel magic. Now level 13 with a few new grappling feats as well. Campaign has us taking down a rebel faction for a king that we've worked with before. Keep things mostly calm, no need to bust out my new quote-unquote spells. Just cast Iron quote-unquote and Scorching Ray on baddies with the occasional ki leech to refuel my quote-unquote spell slots. Soon, find ourselves dealing with one of the rebel lieutenants, a rather strong fighter. Pass a few stealth checks to sneak around and get behind him. Wizard is going to use an empowered maximized lightning bolt. Grapple the lieutenant, putting him in a full Nelson. Pop Diamond Soul as a swift action for the spell resistance. Force the lieutenant to fail his save against the lightning bolt since he can't move or make the reflex save. Take the lightning bolt going through me like a boss thanks to my spell resistance. Search the camp to find out the location of their secret hideout. Find partially burnt map leading to it. Manage to find it before the rebels could head off to attack the capital. Leader decides to hold the line to allow his men to carry out his plans. I decide to try and capture him. Fight begins. I cast Long Arm on the leader. DM is confused but allows it. Barbarian manages to sunder his sword. Wizard teleports me behind the leader. Next turn, move in and grapple the leader. He tries to overpower me but I manage to maintain it. I cast Fold Person. Hold Person? Asks the DM. No, Fold Person with his long arms. DM is silent for a moment. Okay, roll a grapple check to tie him up with a -2 penalty due to using his own body to tie him up. Those long arms might make it easier, but he'll still be actively resisting. Natural 20 grapple check. Proceed to turn him into a pretzel. I'll spend 3 ki points to cast Greater Dispel Magic to dispel the long arms. DM looks at me in horror, realizing what I'm doing. The rebel leader's arms shrink back down to normal length, tightening on him, causing damage. Teleport back to the city with him as our captive. Make our way to the walls, and the rebel army is coming. Party keeps him alive with healing spells and potions. Barbarian holds up the rebel leader like a giant basketball. Yet he lands on some of his men, killing them, but he still lives. His men go to check on their leader. They all try in vain to unpretzel him. Nobody manages to unfold him. He soon hits 0 hit points from the pain and later dies since he's still taking damage. Barbarian threatens to fold their next leader even tighter than that. The rebellion surrenders and law and order is re-established. With our reward money, we open up a monk school. Begin teaching the art of Fold Person to new students. And that was how Fold Person became a new spell, quote-unquote. Fold Person, first level monk spell, quote-unquote, from the Jiu-Jitsu school. Components, somatic and 1 body to fold. Player dichotomy. Be me, forever DM. Be starting a new campaign. Westmark your style. Players are caddies to an adventuring party. Their spaceship crashes into an unknown world. Adventurers are missing. Level 0 characters that must try and survive and all that grand stuff. First session is coming up. Have a Discord server all ready. Section to introduce characters. First player does so. Alistar Stormwind, record keeper and admin assistant of the ship. Very low-key human who prefers books to people. He joined the group in the hopes of learning the arcane arts. Steps off the ship. Quite a predicament that we find ourselves in. It will take untold due diligence for us to... "Oh, what's all this then?" Second player posts as I'm reading Alistar's backstory. Borgor Mugsi Mugsplitter, an orc from the 40k universe who found himself on the ship after a mishap with a mech boy. Assumed he was a war boss immediately due to him being the only orc. The adventurers kept him as a quaint mascot. I picture Alistar's solemn moment destroyed as Mugsy screams and trots off into the wilderness. Whiplash from the incredible difference. Hurts so good. Can't wait to see what the others bring. Should be a ridiculous campaign. Our first 10 minutes in Barovia. Be me, a changeling eloquence bard. Be not me, NPC Korgo, the shapeshifting demon cat, NPC Hayfever, the moss kitten, Dragonborn fighter, Vedelkin sage, Final Fantasy homebrew, and the Tabaxi rogue. We walk into Barovia for the first time. I shapeshift into a gnome, thanks MMOTM, anticipating shenanigans and not wanting my real face associated with them. We find the town map. We immediately start using Roll20 to draw a bad meme on the map. Fighter canonizes that Among Us is the cool ass of this world, and gets an inspiration. I smell barbecue and start sprinting towards a bar called Burgermaster. I'm a 3-foot gnome in 6-inch snow. My dash action carries me as far as the rest of the party just walking. Corgo is walking on the rooftops. 7 hours prior, he had eaten an unconscious boss monster and accidentally gained a 10-foot aura of 2d4 cold damage for 24 hours. So he kept his distance for the sake of safety. With a 16 passive perception, I notice 2 children on the roof approaching Corgo with snowballs. I make a snowball myself, jump 7 feet up and barely grab onto the roof ledge, dropping that snowball immediately. I yell out to the kids that they should get away from Corgo to avoid the danger that Corgo inherently presented. One of the kids tries to pick up Corgo. Dumbass kid. Rogue makes and throws 2 snowballs with his 2-weapon fighting. Rolls a 1 and a 3 for how good the snowballs are. They're balls of ice and gravel. Rolls a 22 and a natural 20 to hit though. One kid gets his jaw dislocated and the other is knocked out cold. I use 2 of my remaining 3 spell slots using Healing Word to make the kids not die. They run off and I use my last spell slot to suggest that the rogue not murder any more kids. Corgo runs off a bit while we go to get a room. I change out of gnome form and that face now has a criminal record. We walk into the bar and sit down. We all order beer and food. I request an IPA with a shot of vodka in it and mull over how we've been in town all of 60 seconds and nearly killed 2 children. A drunkard a few tables over starts raving about how his burger was overdone and harassing the waitress. I shape change into the waitress, walk up behind this guy and prestidigitation his burger to make it taste less cooked. Drunkard asks what the hell is going on. As an eloquence bard, I use my minimum 21 deception persuasion to gaslight him into thinking that he's just drunk and imagining things. I walk away, shape change back to true form, and sit back down, all in plain view. Fighter tries to look like he doesn't know me. Drunkard tries to tell his friends what he saw, and they call him a f***head. 2v2 tavern fight ensues. Party sits back and watches for 5 minutes. Chef approaches us and asks us to break up the fight. Not our job, says the fighter. Chef offers us a free room and me and the fighter in unison agree to the deal. I transform into the fighter and we each grapple 2 of them. I roll a 24 with 19 strength from a magic item and the fighter also gets a 24 with bardic inspiration. Thrown out the front door. Chef throws meat at them and tells them to stay out. The party sits down and we receive our booze and burgers. It's now 2:05 PM and we woke up at noon the previous day. Hay Fever drinks some tea. He didn't like it. Okay, that's one way to end the story. That came out of nowhere, seems completely unrelated to all the events that happens before. Anyway, alright, well, that's gonna be it for today's video. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like if you did and subscribe more if you haven't already. Also, thank you to everyone supporting the channel on Patreon as well as YouTuber Peter. So thanks so much for those. Links below if you want to check them out, as links to the social media, Discord, everything else. And yeah, that's it. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.